In the first 7 shlokas of chapter 2, we saw that Krishna mildly admonishes Arjuna for his unmanliness, that is klaibyam, because Arjuna, who is overcome by cowardice and delusion, is unable to face a critical situation. At a time when he needs to be fighting his opponents in the battlefield, he backs off. Arjuna, in response, confesses to Lord Krishna that he is a dharma sammoda chetaha, that is, he has no clarity on what his dharma or duty is, and that he is overcome by karpanya dosha, that is, he is overcome by a certain type of cowardice because of which he is not able to take decisions. A totally devastated Arjuna pleads to Sri Krishna as a disciple, and he requests him to tell him what is good or appropriate for him. Now the 8th shloka, Nahi prapashyami mama panudyad yacchokamuchoshanam indriyanam avapya bhuma vasapatnam ruddham rajyam suranam api chadipatyam. He bhumau asapatnam ruddham rajyam suranam api cha adipatyam avapya. So he, that is because bhumau, in this bhuloka, in this earth, asapatna ruddham rajyam, rajyam kingdom, asapatnam without any enemies, and ruddham means with lots of grains. So Arjuna tells avapya means get. Arjuna tells that even if I were to get a kingdom which is full of grains, that is, which is very affluent and very prosperous, and asapatnam without any enemies, so a kingdom with undisputed sovereignty, and adipatyam is lordship, and suranam adipatyam, suranam devas. So even if I were to get lordship over devas, so Arjuna tells that even if I were to get a kingdom which is very prosperous, full of grains, and with undisputed sovereignty, and even if I were to get lordship over devas, na prapashyami mama apanudyad yat shokam uchoshanam indriyanam sense organs, yat shokam is sorrow, and uchoshanam, that sorrow which is drying up my sense organs, na prapashyami, I do not see, mama apanudyad, so I do not see all this, that is getting a kingdom and getting lordship over devas, all this I do not see that as a means to the problem, to solve the problem that I am facing. That is even after obtaining independent, affluent, prosperous kingdom, and even after getting the lordship of gods, I do not see all this as a means of driving away the grief that is drying up my senses. Sanjaya uvacha evam uktva rishikesham gudakeshah parantapa nayotsya iti govindam uktva tushnim babhuvaha. Sanjaya uvacha, Sanjaya continues to narrate all that is happening in the battlefield to Dhritarashtra, and now addressing Dhritarashtra as parantapa, parana tapati iti parantapa. So as a king, Dhritarashtra takes tough decisions which would scorch the enemies, and he also vanquishes his foes. So parantapa. So Gudakeshaha Rishikesham Eva Muktva. Gudakeshaha refers to Arjuna here. Gudakeshaha means one who has won over his sleep. That is Arjuna. Rishikesham, Lord Krishna. So Arjuna tells Krishna, Eva Muktva. He has been telling so many things up till now. He's been rationalizing, giving so many reasons as to why he doesn't want to fight. So, Eva Muktva, having said all that, Na yotsya iti, I will not fight. Arjuna tells, I will not fight. Iti Govindam Muktva. He tells Govindam, that is Krishna, that I will not fight. Uktva, having said that, Tushnim Babhuvaha, he goes silent after that. Earlier we saw that the word Govinda has so many meanings. Another meaning of Govinda is that one who is attained and realized by reading, understanding and knowing the Vedas. Now 10th shloka, Tamuvacha Rishikeshah prahasanniva bharata senayorubayor madhye vishidantamidam vachaha. Now addressing Dhritarashtra as Bharata, that is, O descendant of the king Bharata, Rishikeshaha prahasanniva tam vishidantam tam uvacha. That is, Rishikeshaha, Lord Krishna, prahasanniva, as if he were smiling. Vishidantam tam. Vishidantam, one who is very depressed, sorrowful. Tam is Arjuna. So it's Arjuna who is depressed and sorrowful. So Krishna speaks to Arjuna. Where does he speak? Senayor ubayor madhye. In the middle of the battlefield, in between both the armies. Idam vachaha uvacha. He speaks the following sentence to Arjuna, who is Vishidantam, that is, who is very sorrowful. Shri. So Krishna is wearing a smile on his face, and he spoke the following words to Vishidantam, the depressed, that is Arjuna, amidst both the armies. Now we find that even after surrendering to Krishna, Arjuna appears to be still confused and bewildered, and it appears that Arjuna continues to rationalize his decision of not fighting. In such a situation, it becomes all the more difficult for the Guru or the teacher, that is Lord Krishna here, to put things in the right perspective. Sri Krishna's smile seems to suggest that he is aware of all the sufferings and that he is able to see through the endless thought process, Arjuna's thought process, and Arjuna's endless attempts to rationalize his decision of not fighting. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashocyananvashocastvam prajñāvādāmscha bhāshase gatāsūna gatāsūmscha nānushochanti panditāh. Now Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, speaks. Tvam ashocyan anvashochaha. That is, Tvam refers to Arjuna here. Ashocyan, persons for whom you need not grieve. Anvashochaha, grieving and lamenting. So Krishna tells Arjuna that you are lamenting and grieving over persons who are not worthy of grief. Prajñāvādāmscha bhāshase, and you speak like a learned person. So Arjuna has been making so many arguments. He quoted from the Smriti, and he said that by killing Duryodhana and others, we would accumulate sins. So he's been making so many arguments like a learned person. On the other hand, Krishna tells that Panditaha Gatasun Agatasumscha na anushochanti. Panditaha, learned persons. Gatasun, those who are no more, that is dead. Agatasun, those who are alive. Na anushochanti, grieve, worry. Na anushochanti, panditaha, in reality, do not worry about the dead and the alive. Arjuna's suffering on seeing his relatives in the battlefield is on account of categorizing certain persons as his own. So Krishna goes to the bottom of his grief and tells him that Bhishma and Drona are not to be grieved for. Because in the earlier shloka, Arjuna was telling that how can I direct my sharp arrows at my Guru and at Bhishma Pitamaha? How can I fight them? So in response, Krishna is telling that you are grieving for persons, that is Bhishma and Drona and your other relatives, cousin brothers. You are grieving for and lamenting about persons for whom you need not grieve about. The cause of Arjuna's suffering and distress is because of the attachment towards his relatives. The ego because of which he categorizes some persons amongst the opponents as his own. So if Arjuna were to unveil this delusion, and if he can rediscover himself on an elevated spiritual plane, and also Arjuna should get rid of the identification he has with his relatives, and if he were to be able to do all of this, then he can overcome his sorrows. So in the 11th shloka itself, Sri Krishna imparts the greatest knowledge to Arjuna to help him overcome his grief. Natvevaham jatu nasam natvam neme janadipah न चैव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयमतः परम् न तु एव अहं जातु न आसं न त्वं न इमे जनाधिपाः न च एव न भविष्यामः सर्वे वयम् अतः परम् aham jatu na tu asam. That is, neither I nor you, na asam, did not exist. Jatu means eppozhudavadu. That is, neither I nor you did not exist at any point of time. Na, that is, it's not true that you or I did not exist at any point of time. Which means we've always been existing. Na ime janadipaha. So what is true of us is true of these kings also. Jana adipaha, all these kings who are assembled here also. They have also been existing and they continue to exist, and they will exist in the future also. Na cha eva na bhavishyamaha sarve vayam ataha param. Ataha param, that is hereafter, that is inimelum. Vayam sarve, we all, na bhavishyamaha, will not exist. Na, that also is not true. So in summary, Krishna is telling, Lord, never was a time when you, I, or these kings did not exist, nor in the future would any of us cease to exist. In this shloka, Lord Krishna reiterates that the Atma in us existed before we were born, it continues to exist as we live, and it would continue to exist after we die also. So we are all immortal from a spiritual perspective, and hence there is no cause for Arjuna to grieve over the possible death of Bhishma and Drona or other relatives. Let us consider the example of a pot. Prior to its assuming the shape of a pot, then as a pot, and then after its breaking, it is the mud or the clay which is real and which has continuous existence. Likewise, it is the Atma alone which has continuous existence. So one has to make a clear distinction between the physical body and the Atma. Atma has existence before we were born, it exists as we live, and it will continue to exist in the future also, even if the physical body dies. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara prapti dhirastatra namuhyati. Yata dehinaha asmin dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara. Yata, like how dehinaha, a person who has a physical body. Dehe, in his physical body, he goes through various stages like Kaumaram, boyhood. In Tamil you can say Ilamai. Yauvanam, youth, Valiba Parvam, Jara, old age, or Mudumai. So a person who has a physical body, like how he goes through old age, he goes through various stages like boyhood, youth, and old age. Tata, likewise, Dehantara Prapti. After the death of the physical body, the physical body dies and the Atma gets a new body. And Dhiraha Tatra na Muhyati. Dhiraha, wise people, Tatra is on this matter of going through various stages, and on this matter of losing the physical body and getting a new body. Dhiraha na Muhyati. They are not bothered about all this. They are not deluded or not bothered by the transitions that the physical body goes through. So in summary, in this shloka, the Lord tells that the vikara, that is the change, is only for the physical body. The physical body goes through changes like boyhood, youth, old age. But the Atma is avikara. That is, even after a person leaves his body, the Atma leaves his body, the Atma continues to exist. It enters another body. From the 11th sloka of chapter 2, we find that Sri Krishna begins to impart the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga to Arjuna. In the 11th, 12th, and 13th slokas that we just saw, Lord Krishna urges Arjuna to give up his myopic view. He urges Krishna to give up his physical and emotional outlook towards his near and dear ones and other relatives. He calls upon him to view them as Atma and not as physical bodies. There are two things, the Atma, which is real, and the physical body, which is unreal. And there is no reason for Arjuna to grieve over both, because Atma never ceases to be. It exists in three time periods, that is the past, present, and the future as well, and hence it is immortal. The physical body is ever perishable, and hence learned persons are not deluded over the changes and the transitions it goes through. It is the physical body alone which goes through various changes like childhood, youth, and old age. The Atma, which is avikara, remains the same in all the three stages of these bodily experiences. It moves on unchanged from one stage to another. So, in conclusion, there is no need for Arjuna to grieve. This Sri Krishna makes it very, very clear that there is no reason for Arjuna to grieve.